teacher talk session tonight, and tonight we are going to have our first session of 2024. And tonight we are going to have an ELT teacher trainer in inclusive education, Boelo Wonderpool. When he comes, we are going to start our live session with him, and we are going to talk very interesting topic with him. And I hope you are going to enjoy our session with Boelo. I'm waiting for him to send me a request for the session. He's here writing. When he comes, we are going to start our live session. Yes, you can send me a request, Boelo. Or let me invite you. Just a moment. Waiting for him to accept. Hello. I have accepted his invitation to join. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hello. I'm fine, Boelo.
Yeah.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you, and I can hear you loud and clearly.
Okay,
And I can see you very well.
Wonderful.
Sorry
It's
for the
great.
delay.
But no, it's not a problem, but I can't see you, as I told you.
Yes, you did.
Because of the Instagram problem, but it's not a problem. Now I fixed the problem. I'm looking at on my computer, and now I can see you here as well. Not a problem.
Wonderful.
All right, so it's really great to have you here in our teacher talk sessions, 145th session, and which is the first session of 2024.
A good
I'm really
start.
happy. Yeah, exactly. And good start with a good guest. And I hope we are going to have an excellent session with you, Boelo. And I would like to say one more time, thank you very much for accepting my invitation for teacher talks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I know that we are all busy, and I'm sure that you are very busy. So if you're ready, we can start.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Go ahead.
So I know about you, Boelo, but by the way, can you tell us about yourself, please, and a bit about your experiences too?
Yeah. So I'm Dutch by birth. I've been living in Spain for the past 30 years almost. And for all those years, I've always been involved in the ELT industry. I worked at various language schools. I owned my own language school for almost 25 years. I've never been a language teacher as such, but I've always worked with students from more a learner perspective and more from a coaching perspective as well. So I always looked at language learning from a different perspective, and I've worked with a lot of teachers over the years. And recently, well, in the past 7-8 years, I specialized in language coaching, and later I specialized in dyslexia and teaching effectively to students with dyslexia. Also because I'm dyslexic myself, and I have learned languages in a different way than other people usually do, or than neurotypical people usually do.
Wow, I see. It's really, it's really interesting topic to discuss here tonight. So we will have it. Thank you. And so, would you like to add anything else, or can I move to another question?
No.
Okay.
Fire ahead.
Okay. So, what was or were your turning point or points in your own education, Boelo?
Wow, turning point in my own education.
Hard
I really
question,
don't know.
I think.
I think maybe one of the turning points in my own education was a couple of years ago when I actually realized that I am dyslexic.
Wow.
Mildly dyslexic, because I never knew. And it did answer a lot of questions for me. It answered a lot of questions of why why wasn't I able to do this? Why was I very good in doing that? Why did these things happen in my life? And for me, it was an amazing eye opener, to be very honest.
Oh, I
And also
see.
having worked a lot with dyslexic students over the past years and understanding their frustration and seeing where they come from and being able to help them in English learning, obviously, but in life actually in general. For me, that's been amazing.
I see. It's really interesting. So thank you very much for sharing, Boelo. So I think you've been teaching also in your career
Yeah,
for a long time, and
yeah, yeah,
also in this period probably you have used different techniques or methods or strategies in your teaching. So
yeah.
and probably you have a philosophy of teaching. So what is it? What is your philosophy of
Yeah.
teaching?
Well, I think, as I said before, for me, it's and I think that's the main thing, and this is why I think that our school worked so well for so many years. That I always said it. For me, it's not about teaching; it's about learning. So the center is not the teacher who teaches; it's the student who learns. So everything
Mm-hmm.
I've always worked on with my teachers, and at some point we had a team of 25 teachers in the school, was always based on the learning process and the learning experience of the student. And
I see.
and especially now with dyslexic students, I see that that is absolute key to success with these students.
Mm-hmm. I got it. Okay. Thank you very much for sharing your philosophy of teaching. And as a teachers, we have lots of the stories
Yeah.
in our career, and some of them are success stories, and some of them are kind of uh, failed stories, we can say. So, can you tell us one or two success stories of yours and something inspirational if you
Yeah, I
have?
mean, a couple of years ago, I think it was we were working with a 15-year-old boy,
Uh-huh.
dyslexic, severely dyslexic actually. And when he started his classes with us, his mother actually said to us that for him, English was literally, he saw it as a closed door. So
Oh,
for him,
mm-hmm.
English was impossible. He'd been doing English classes since he was 6 or 7 or something, and he'd
Wow.
never learned anything. And for him, it was like something at the age of 15, he had already decided that he would never speak English in his life.
I
Um,
see.
we started working with him. I did sessions with him. Other teachers did sessions with him. And 3 or 4 months later, I spoke to the mother again, and she said to me that very recently he had said to her that he could see, I mean, he was very visual in his expression in the door. He could see that the door was opening bit
Ah,
by bit for him. So
oh, I
for us,
see.
it was like an amazing breakthrough, seeing this boy at such a young age now realizing that probably, yes, he could learn English, maybe at a different pace, obviously in a different way, but he could. So I would say that's one. And then for me, I do a lot of teacher training. And actually my whole website, boelovanderpoel.com, is about teacher training for ELT teachers, mainly in dyslexia.
Oh, I
And
see. Mm-hmm.
um, what inspires me most, what I love is when I do sessions with teachers, even how short they are, and teachers coming up to me, and even teachers with like 25, 30 years experience, Delta and all that stuff that they have, and even those teachers coming up to me and saying like, oh wow, this
Uh-huh.
was eye-opening. I never knew this, and I had in a previous teaching session I had before Christmas, one of the teachers even said to me, she said, listen, Boelo, after the first 3 hour session, I already noticed so many things that we should change in a school to be able to cater for that amount of students that
Wow.
we didn't even know of that have dyslexia. And now I know they have dyslexia, and now I can cater for them. So even with investing a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, there's so much we can do for those students.
I see. It's wonderful. It's a really great success for you, probably. I mean, like the feeling also is really different, I think,
Yeah, no, the
that you
feeling is
had there.
amazing. And I mean, the successes for the teachers and most of all for the students, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I see. It's great. Congrats. And
Thanks.
it's a really good, great feelings. All right. And Boelo, when you think about your training sessions or presentations, and what was or were the most interesting situation or situations that you faced?
Um, yeah, what I like very much about my training sessions and the workshops that I do is the reactions of teachers afterward. But I think I did one a couple of months ago, and it was like a group of 50 director of studies and teachers from all over Europe, and
Uh-huh.
and they were in a room. It was like a 45-minute session. It was something very short. But halfway through the session, it happened that there were two teachers from the same language school, both from Germany, from the same language school, were
Uh-huh.
sitting next to each other. And while I was talking about dyslexia, about the signs of dyslexia, about how to do with students, etc., they immediately looked at each other and they said a student's name. I'm not going to say the student's name, but they instantly pronounced the student's name, because they and then afterwards they came up to me and they said, Boelo, while you were talking, we immediately thought of that student, and we knew that you were describing that student to us, and
Wow.
we had seen him struggling with English, we had seen him failing in school, we had seen him going through really dark moments in learning English, and almost wanting to give up.
Uh-huh.
And they said, and now we know what it is.
Wow.
And that for me was like, oh wow. And again, as I said, with honestly, with very little that you can do, with very little knowledge, there's so much a teacher can advance and a teacher can do for their students.
I see. It's a really interesting moment about that
Yeah.
they realized the situation in about their students. I think when you talk there, actually until that time they had no idea about the
No.
student. Oh, I
No.
see. It's
No,
great.
that's the whole thing, with dyslexia. One of the biggest problems is not so much the student that knows he's dyslexic and that comes to you and they say, listen, I have dyslexia, this is what I need, etc. And that's it. It's mainly the students that don't know
Uh-huh.
they're dyslexic. And that is actually the majority of dyslexics in the world. So the majority of
Wow.
people, like myself, I found out a couple of years ago, the majority of people don't even know they are dyslexic.
Cool. Wow. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bruno. And Bruno, for you, let's move on about the language, the questions for you. What are the key principles of, the effective language teaching when you think about your situation?
Yeah. Well, as I said before, for me, the main thing is understanding your student. So knowing where your student comes from,
Uh-huh.
and teaching from the learner's perspective, not teaching from your teaching perspective, not you wanting to give them something, but understanding what they need from you. For me, that's number one. Having a really good relationship with your
Uh-huh.
students. Now, I'm not saying being friends with your students.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the issue. It's having a relationship of trust, having really good rapport with your students, and also understanding how your students learn, because different students learn in different ways,
Definitely.
and
Mm-hmm.
and and especially with many adult students, especially at low levels, but also with dyslexic students. As teachers, sometimes we're inclined to think that everybody learns the way that we used to learn, which is sometimes in a very academic way. But not everybody works that way. Not everybody's brain works that way, and we really have to understand how the student's brain works to be able to teach them effectively.
Oh, I see. I understand. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bolo. And so I would like to move to actually the questions that are really, the interested in you. So your interest area. So, um, how would you define dyslexia, and what are some common misconceptions that teachers may have about it?
Yeah, okay. I think one of the main misconceptions is that it's only about reading and writing. That it's just someone who reads slowly and that's it. Another misconception, I think, it is that it's got something to do with the level of intellect, of
Uh-huh.
intelligence of the student, and that's got nothing to do with it. I would define dyslexia as a different way of the brain to process the information it receives. And it manifests itself mostly with reading and writing. So reading
Oh,
and
I see.
writing is a very big issue of dyslexia. But it's not only that. It's also organization skills, it's working memory, it's sequencing. It's basically, it's, as I said before, the brain works in a different way to process information, which has some bad areas, but it also has some very, very good areas. And those are the
I
areas
see.
that we usually don't look at.
I see. Okay. So it's really interesting. Really, really.
Thanks.
And there is a comment, Bulo. Adra says, how you know or be familiar with your learner's perspective about language teaching really is so challenging to balance all perspectives, she says.
Mm. Um, it might be challenging to balance the perspectives of the students. I mean, it also depends on how many students there are in your classroom. But I usually think that it all starts, at least for me, it all starts by acknowledging that there are different perspectives. It doesn't mean that you as a teacher have to give all the different perspectives in your classroom, but you can at least acknowledge that there are different perspectives. You can encourage your students to look for what works
Uh-huh.
best for them, so they can also work autonomously at home in the way that works best for them, and express to you what goes best. And then sometimes you can even group students together that might not have the same learning style or
I
have the
see.
same needs,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe have needs that can combine together, you know?
Yeah, I see. Thank you. It's really, I hope, Azra, you have your answer for your question. Thank you, Bulo. Thank you very much. And so, would you like to add anything else, or can I move to
Yeah,
another
no,
one?
no, move on. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And in your experience, because you're expert in this dyslexia topic,
Yeah.
how prevalent is dyslexia in the students' population, and also how does it manifest in the classroom?
Yeah. Well, it is really difficult to name exact figures about the prevalence of dyslexia, most of all because nobody really agrees on how to measure it.
Oh, I
And many
see.
times, depending on the country where you live, it's measured in one way or another. But if you look at many sources, I
Uh-huh.
usually say that approximately between 10 and 15% of population has a certain degree of dyslexia. Now, this can
Oh,
go
I
from maybe
see.
4% of severe dyslexia to maybe the rest of people that have like a more milder dyslexia. And there are even countries, there are sources in the United States that say that it even goes up to 20%. But as I said
Oh,
as well, it all depends on how you measure dyslexia and when for you a person is dyslexic. I usually say to explain this, I usually ask, how blonde do you have to be blonde? You know?
I see.
And this is
Yeah.
something very difficult. And then people usually answer, well, it depends on where you live. And I say, exactly, depends on where you live. Because you can be blonde in Spain, for instance, or you could even be blonde in Turkey. But it doesn't mean that when you move to Finland or Sweden, they see you
Uh-huh.
as blonde too, you know? Because for them,
Yeah.
blonde is maybe a lot lighter than it is for people
Mm-hmm.
in the Mediterranean. So
I see.
that is very difficult for me and for anyone to really to answer the amount of dyslexia there. But I usually go with between 10 and 15% to keep it more or less on the safe side. Now,
Mm.
how to recognize dyslexia is not
Yes.
very easy either, to be very honest. But I mean, in my teacher training course, I do one part is recognizing dyslexia, screening for dyslexia.
I
So
see.
it's a big thing. But I usually say that for me, the biggest trigger, the biggest red flag to analyze or to screen for dyslexia
Uh-huh.
is if you have a student in class who is able to verbally give you
Yes.
amazing answers You ask them a question, you ask them about their past holiday, you ask them about the Christmas holidays, for instance, and verbally they give you a very long, very good, coherent answer with rich vocabulary, good grammar, etc. But when you
Cool.
ask the same question in writing, and you ask them to write it down, you consistently get much shorter, much poorer answers with orthographic mistakes, with grammar mistakes, with very simple grammar, etc. So it's the unexpected difference
I
between what
see.
the student can produce in speaking and what the student produces in writing. That's one of the biggest red flags to me.
I see. It's interesting point. Really, really. Thank you, Boelo, for the giving these ideas to us about it. Sometimes it's really difficult for us to understand it,
It is.
but maybe this can help us about it. And Boelo, what strategies do you recommend for? Actually, you talk about it, but maybe you would like to add another things. Recommend for identifying students with dyslexia, and how can teachers, this is really important, differentiate between typical reading difficulties and dyslexia? This is really difficult for us to understand.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the last one. I mean, the difference is, I would say, the difference between typical reading problems, so a lack in reading, and dyslexia, I think is what I said before. So
Yes.
it's when you receive a written assignment from your student or a written exam from your student, and you say, "Oh my God, this is such poor work," but usually, and then you say, "Usually he or she is so smart." If I see this writing, and he or she looks, you could even say maybe a little bit dumb or a little bit not so
Yeah.
intelligent, but or not so capable in English. But when she speaks, my God, she's so good. And that for me is like, oh well, this is when you see, like, this is the difference with the students.
I see.
Strategies. Oh God, there are many strategies, to be very honest. I actually wrote a guide on teaching students with dyslexia. It's a free guide. You can download it from my website, willevanderpoel.com. And one of the things that I tell there as well, that one of the main things for me is multi-sensory teaching. And this is also to come back to the question that was asked before about how can I accommodate for different students. Well, if you use multisensory teaching, so you teach the same item in 4 or 5 different ways. So one time it's written, the other time it's more auditory, the other time it's more speaking, the other time is in a game, the other time is in a song. The other time maybe we can even act it out, or we can manipulate it, or we can do whatever with it. That way, I cater for many different types of students, but that way I also use all the senses that get the information into the brain of my students, because I don't really know how the students process the information best. So if I use the different
I
senses,
understand.
then it's much easier for the student to process that information.
I see. It's really, the ideas. I'm trying to listen listen very carefully, because the topic and the things you say is really, some of them I heard it, but some of them are really new for
Yeah.
me. So it's really, interesting to me.
Well,
Really.
go
Okay.
on the website and download the guide, Volkan.
I will do that, and maybe after the session, when I upload the video on IGTV, maybe I can, if you write me the website, and I can
Yeah,
share it with the
yeah.
audiences also.
I'll give it to you. It's
Is it
willevanderpoel.com. It's very
okay?
easy.
Is it
Yeah.
free to download that?
It's free to download.
Oh,
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And by the way, let's move to another question about it. Again, it's about the students. It's really,
Yeah.
and how can teachers, this is also really important, promote an inclusive classroom culture where students with dyslexia feel valued and supported by their peers, because this situation sometimes can be a really problem in the classroom during the activities, or outside classroom, or inside the classroom during the lesson. It's really, the serious problem, becomes serious problem, not maybe from the teacher side, but from the student side. Sometimes, the ends really bad. So what are your suggestions or ideas about
Yeah.
it?
Beautiful question. Good question. Very important question as well. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
that. Yeah. I think that first and foremost, it's really important that the teacher understands dyslexia, that the teacher is fully aware of what dyslexia is, how it feels, what it entails, so they understand where the student comes from. Second, I think it's important to really look at the student and see what the student needs as well. Some students need disclosure. Some students just need to be able to speak about it in class, maybe especially the more older students, the
I
more
see.
mature students. And I've seen situations with teachers that say that after taking my course, they say like, oh my God, I started speaking to my students about dyslexia. We had an amazing class talking about the topic. Everybody asked that one dyslexic student or those two dyslexic students about their about their situation. And now the rapport is so much better, and everybody helps each other, and they also know their strengths. Because I think one of the main things here as well is talking about dyslexia is not talking about their weaknesses.
I see.
Talking about dyslexia is talking about everything. And especially with these students, we have to stress that dyslexia is actually a strength. So for me, dyslexia is a strength. It's not a weakness.
Yes.
And I always say to any parent I speak to, and it's usually mothers that I speak to, I usually say when I say, oh, my son or my daughter's dyslexic, my immediate reaction is, oh, congratulations. Because you've got a great mind in your house.
Yeah.
The thing is that you don't know it yet, and probably your child doesn't know it yet, but you will find out sooner or later that it is a great mind.
Exactly.
And so it's very, I think it's important to talk about it, but only when the student is ready for it. And maybe before talking about it in the classroom, it's important to talk about it with the student individually, maybe with the parents as well, and to address it from a positive angle as well, not only from a negative angle,
Yeah,
and from an angle
definitely.
and from the angle that I understand where you come from, I understand your situation, and I am here to help you. I am here for you to learn. And I think that if the student knows that and really feels it, it's not just saying the words, it's feeling the words in your heart as well. And if the student feels it, that, oh my God, yes, this teacher is really going to make a difference for me, then oh my God, so many things change. Honestly, it's beautiful to see it.
Yeah, it's wonderful, wonderful. And it's kind of, the misconception just you mentioned, you mentioned the dyslexia, about dyslexia, like, it's a kind of, we think that this is a kind of weaknesses, but actually it's a strength, as you mentioned. It's just like to, the understand and to find the right and correct time to tell this to students and the parents, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Find the right way to communicate with everybody around them as well. Yeah.
Because if I'm wrong, please correct me. Like, in some cultures, when you say this to parents or the students, it's, it brings different situations. That's also really important. So we
Yeah.
need to be also careful to convey this
Yes.
situation.
I continuously face this situation, and I think it's the same almost in every country where I meet people and I speak about dyslexia, is that there is such a negative bias
Oh, I see.
around dyslexia that there literally are parents that do not want to hear the D word. So D for dyslexia. No, my son's not dyslexic, my daughter's not dyslexic. And I go, yeah, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way they learn. And I truly believe that it's the educational system, it's the way how we teach the students that makes it so difficult for them. If we would change minor things, it literally isn't that much that we have to change. But if we change minor things in the way we do our teaching,
Yeah.
everything would be much easier for them. And honestly, that they would thrive in education, and they would thrive in the rest of their lives because their
Wow.
brains are amazing. Honestly, they are.
I see. It's really wonderful, really great. Okay, so Boelo, by the way, sorry, Bulo, and so I'm gonna ask you another question, but something related again with the same question, but maybe would like to add any something different to it. What strategies like can be employed to prevent stigmatization and create a positive learning environment for all students?
First of all, I would say have an open conversation about it. Again, obviously, the teacher has to know what they're talking about. It can't be that the teacher doesn't know anything. So they really have to know what they're talking about. Have an open conversation about it with the students. Look. I mean, I think it was Einstein who said, if you judge, I think he said, if you judge a fish
Yeah, I know
for its ability to climb up a tree, it would always think it's a stupid animal, you know. But a fish should swim, and a monkey should climb up a tree, and that's just the way it is. And many times with the dyslexic brain, it works the same. Maybe the dyslexic brain is not good at reading and writing and other stuff, but it is very good at other things. And I think this is something that has to be stressed out to students as well. Not every brain is the same. Not every student is the same. Some students wear glasses, other students don't. Some students are tall, other students are shorter. Some students are good at sports, others aren't. Some are good at music, others aren't, etc., etc. So it's just a different way of processing information, a different way of the brain, how it works, and that's it. And apart from it, as I said before, also addressing it not always from a positive side. I mean, it's not a superpower. I'm not saying that dyslexic people are like Superman and Superwoman here, but don't only address it from a negative bias, and maybe take examples from real life. There are many famous dyslexics that are out there, that are amazing role models. There are Nobel Prize winners. There are inventors. I mean, I'm doing this on an iPhone. If it weren't for the dyslexic brain, I would not have an iPhone, because the inventor of the iPhone, Steve Jobs, was severely dyslexic. You know?
Yeah.
So there's so many. I mean,
I heard about it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I think that this is something that has to be spoken about with everybody, and because it's a condition that stays for the rest of your life. It's not something that goes away. It's not something that can be cured. It's not a disease, you know. So it just is.
I see. I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Boelo, about all this information you have given us. And I want to ask you another question, because you have a website, you have lots of, the sessions, and you have other things in this dyslexia concept. But how can you help English teachers or other teachers around the world in making a difference to their dyslexic students? Because you give help to the teachers. How do you do that? And
Yeah, well,
also, what can that teachers should do to reach you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would invite everybody to follow me on Instagram, obviously, to follow me on Facebook, look me up on LinkedIn if you're there as well, and by all means, go to my website, boelovanderpoel.com. Download the guide. It's for free. It's about 30 pages. It's a very good first stage to starting to learn about dyslexia, about what you can do with your student. And what I do, I offer online courses. I offer a 6-hour dyslexia awareness training. It's 2 sessions of 3 hours. It's face-to-face, maximum 10 students usually. The next session is at the end of the month, the 26th of January and the 2nd of February. I got two sessions, one on 2 consecutive Fridays. So sign up or look for other sessions that I do as well. And just start doing this. And honestly, I've never spoken to a teacher that afterwards has said to me, "Oh, Boelo, I already knew this. This was bullshit. I didn't need this." And so, I mean, as I said, even the most experienced teachers that I know with 30, 35 years experience, owning several schools, being Delta, being teacher trainers themselves, have come up to me and have said, "Oh my God, I've learned a lot, and I know a lot more now than I knew before, and moreover, I can recognize students in my school that have dyslexia without me knowing it, and probably without them knowing it themselves. And now I know what to do to help these students.
I see. It's wonderful. It's great. And I hope lots of the audiences or the lots of teachers will reach you about this topic and get the benefits of it.
Yeah, it would
Okay,
be
thank you.
amazing.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
That's
thank
really
you.
great. That's really great. Thank you, Boelo. All right, it's all about the questions about dyslexia. Now I want to ask you another couple questions. Okay, I hope you are enjoying it. I hope you're not
No,
bored. So far, so good, I
I'm
think.
not.
I'm really happy to listen to you. It's really great, and so far I've learned lots of things from you. Thank you very much. Really,
No,
it's a really great
thank
and
you.
fruitful
Thank you for
sessions.
having
Really.
me. Thank you for
Okay.
having me. Thank you for letting me spread the word. As I always say, it's so important to create awareness. And I always say everybody knows about dyslexia,
Yeah.
but nobody really understands it, you know? And so for me, being able to be on your channel, you know, and I know you've got an amazing channel and an amazing audience.
Thank
Being
you.
able to be here for me means a lot because I know that through this we can reach many people.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
thanks for this.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Bulo. Okay, and Bulo, it's my question about again teaching. Like in your opinion, what is the most rewarding aspect of teaching for you?
Wow. I think seeing students that thought that they were not capable of communicating in English, that they thought that it was like a no-go for them.
Uh-huh.
Seeing them walking away speaking English. And I think that the most amazing moments for me, I think, are when students join classes and maybe they join at a B1 level or even lower, and they continue their classes, continue their learning with you, and then they take the advanced exam, the C1 Cambridge exam, and it's their parents or their partner or sometimes even grandmothers that pick up the certificate from reception, and then you ask like, hey, why you, why not them? And then they say because they found a job.
I
and
see.
and you
Mm-hmm.
know they found a job, and the look on their face, the smile on their face says they found a job because finally they speak English.
That
And I think
perfect.
that life that I think it's the life-changing thing that we do in language
Uh-huh.
teaching. I think we really we change lives of people, and I think that's something really amazing.
Yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree with you, Bulo. It's really great. Yeah. We change their worlds to
Yes.
make them learn a new language. So that language, that opens lots of different doors for them. So
Yeah.
to hear that, it makes us more happier than ever.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So, Boelo, as you know that there are lots of, the new teachers around the world. So, what advice would you like to give to new or aspiring English language teachers or other teachers who are just starting their teaching career?
First of all, I would say don't give up.
Yeah, that's important. Never give
Probably the
up because
first
you are
thing
a
that
teacher.
comes to mind is don't don't give up. But I think most of all, enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy the learning experience of your students. Get to know your students.
Yeah,
Do this from their perspective. Now, if it's a dyslexic student or a non-dyslexic student, if they're younger, if they're older, do it for the fun of communicating, because what we do, I always say that there's two ways to doing this. I can
uh-huh,
help you pass an exam, or I can help you communicate in the language. And I think that what we do, what we need to do is the latter. We need to help people to communicate in language. And honestly, anybody who's a language teacher, I would say, I think you have one of the most beautiful jobs that exists,
definitely.
because you are going to be the person who's going to hand over the magic of
Uh-huh.
communication in a different language. Because I was just thinking about this before. I mean, I'm Dutch by birth, so my mother tongue is Dutch. Your mother tongue, I guess, is Turkish.
Yeah,
So had we not learned a second language, at least a second language, we would have never been in this session. We would have never met. We would have never
definitely.
communicated. And
Mm-hmm,
that
exactly.
power of communication, oh my God, that's what makes us human. You know, so we basically give people an extra human power. That's what we do. So for beginning
I
teachers, keep on learning, keep on doing, never give up, and understand that you give people something really powerful.
exactly. I can't agree more, Boelo. Really, definitely. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Boelo, and how do you, the years passes and you know that. And how do you see yourself in 10 years? And will you still be a trainer or doing teaching job or try another jobs? What do you think? Or what's
Oh
gonna
no,
happen in the future?
I would never switch industries. No. I think once you're in this industry and you meet so many amazing people that do the same around the world, and as soon as you start talking to a language teacher, you connect immediately, and you can relate to them, and maybe you're teaching in Turkey, I'm teaching in Spain, somebody else is teaching in
Different.
Japan, but we share the same experiences, you know, and I think that's the beauty of what we do. I would like in 10 years to be able to say that I've reached many, many language teachers, not only
Uh-huh.
ELT teachers, also all other language teachers
Other language teachers.
around the world,
Hmm.
and that I've helped them in becoming uh, dyslexia friendly teachers or dyslexia expert teachers, or at least to becoming the teachers that make a difference.
Oh, I see.
Because and this is something very important. I think I haven't said it before, but the beauty of what I do with the teachers is that, and the beauty of doing dyslexia friendly or SEN friendly teaching is that whatever works for your dyslexic student
Yeah.
also works for the other students. It's never I do this for the dyslexic and that for the others. It's always I do this specifically for the dyslexics or the
Uh-huh.
dyslexic, if it's only one, and it also works for the others. Because whatever I explain to teachers, they always go like, oh yeah,
Oh.
oh, it actually works really well with my other students as well.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. I
So
see.
yeah, and that's how I would like to see myself in 10 years time.
Perfect. Really, it's great. Thank you for sharing your future with us. Thank you.
My dream
Okay,
future.
exactly. And I hope you will make it real
Thank
as
you.
soon as possible.
Thank you.
And you know that there are lots of the times in our lives and in sometimes difficult times or challenging times, and in that when that time comes we say is like, oh, I wish I could that superpower so I could do this easily, or I wish I could that superpower or another power so I could do that easily. So when you think about this into the classroom, if you could have one superpower to use it, what would it be and how would it help you in the classroom?
Uh, Read students' minds.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Not like the I think it was Mel Gibson movie where he can read women's minds. Not that one. But
Yeah,
read.
I
I
know
have
that one. It's a very
That's why I
funny
said read
movie. Yeah.
students' minds. Read students' minds. No, yeah, I think I would, because as I said, for me, if a student doesn't have a healthy self-esteem, if they're not happy in class, if they're not motivated, if they're not focused on a
Uh-huh.
goal, if you don't connect with them, it is very difficult to teach them effectively. So if I were able to understand the student and read the student's minds, I would be able to understand better where they come from, and how they think, and if what I'm doing is really
Uh-huh.
having a positive effect on them.
I
That now
see.
I still can, but it takes a long time to get there, and then it would be a lot easier. So yeah, I think that would be
Hmm.
my superpower.
Your superpower is really it's great and helpful superpower probably. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bulo. Thank you very much. And so what I'm gonna tell you next one, think about that we finished the interview and you step outside the home and find a lottery ticket that ends up winning a $10 million, which is really big amount. What would you do?
Whoa, $10 million. My God, that's a lot of money. I think I would first put enough money aside to buy myself a nice place, put money aside for my kids, to make sure they're safe as well, and can do whatever they need. leave some money to not retire. As I said, I'm never retiring, but at least to live a little bit easier. And I think I would truly spend the vast majority on maybe buying land and planting trees anywhere in the world, because it doesn't really matter where the trees are planted. I mean, everybody
Uh-huh.
needs the trees all around the world. Plus, I would spend money on education.
Yeah.
I would spend money on
Mm-hmm.
education in areas of the world where it is needed, and maybe not where a new school is needed, but where teacher training is needed, where resources are needed, where people need to take their students to the next level. Um,
Mm-hmm. I see.
it's so. I mean, when you look at um, when you look at data surrounding dyslexia in my field, and you see
Yes,
that a dyslexic student is much more likely to drop out of school, and is much more likely to almost fail in life. To be very honest, to
I
fail
see.
in
Uh-huh.
life. But on the other hand, a dyslexic student is also more likely to become a self-made millionaire.
I see.
So
Wow.
being dyslexic, it can really go one way or it can go the
Another
other, and
way.
it's up to us. It's not only up to us, but we teachers, we have a big role in taking these students
Exactly.
here and not letting them slip there. So I always think, in all these areas
Yes.
of the world, in all these classrooms in Africa and Asia and Europe and in America and in Latin
Uh-huh.
America, how many Einsteins, Steve Jobs, Walt Disney's, Agatha Christie's
A lot
are
probably.
there,
Mm-hmm.
and how many brilliant minds are there, and how many of these students should we motivate and get to their highest potential, and we don't,
Definitely.
because we don't
Mm-hmm.
have the resources. And this is something that I'm really sorry if my answer is very long, but this is something I always
No,
want to
it's
stress.
wonderful. Keep going.
Because
Uh-huh.
sometimes, specifically parents, and I have to say specifically parents, they tend to blame teachers. They tend to blame the teachers for their students, for their child's failure when their child
Yeah,
is dyslexic.
unfortunately.
And I
Uh-huh.
always say to the parents, I say, I can't take the blame away from all teachers. That's true. There might be something, but you can't always only blame the teachers, because most teachers that I know and most teachers that I've worked with and I've spoken to just don't have the time and don't have the resources and don't have the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge. And that's why I always say, honestly, it takes 6 hours, a 6 hour training, and then you are a major step ahead already.
Uh-huh. I see. Thank you. Thank you very much, Boelo. And Boelo, there is a
Yes.
question, if you can see on the screen, Natya
Yeah.
Davitashvili
Yeah.
asking, and what do you suggest to the teachers who have 21 and even more students in each class, all with different abilities, skills, and levels?
Well, first of all, I would talk to your principal and ask for some specific training. To be very honest, because it's not very easy to find like quick fixes for these students. I would say specifically with the dyslexic students. Again, I think I said this before. I would be open about this, and I would talk openly to my students about this situation. Um,
Uh-huh.
I don't think students are too closed when there is good rapport between the teacher and the students and between the students. So first, you have to create good rapport. There has to be a lot of respect from both sides. You have to earn the respect of your students as well, and they have to respect you. And then have a good open conversation about this and asking how you can help these students. And many times the only thing they need is that awareness, or having those students sitting close to you as well, so you can keep an eye on them, knowing what they need. Sometimes some of the students only need to be reminded every now and then, hey, there's only 5 minutes left on the test, because some
Yes.
students have time issues, and they stress out because they go, oh God, I've got half an hour for this test, but I honestly don't understand what half an hour is. So I know it's 30 minutes, but the whole concept of 30 minutes, half an hour doesn't exist in their head. So that alone is too much for them. and they can't focus on what they have to do. So if, for instance, for those students, teacher knows it, teacher walks around and says, guys, 15 minutes left, guys, 10 minutes left, etc., etc. So it's these little things that you can do that I think that can make a big difference for your students.
Definitely. Exactly. I totally agree with you about it. Thank you very much. And I hope you have the answer of your questions.
And if not, by all means, get in touch with me, send me an email, go on my website, send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions, to even maybe have a one-on-one talk every now and then. And I mean, honestly, I want to help out people, you know, I want to make sure that this gets as far as it can.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much, Boelo. And there's another comment here. Parents' acceptance of the problem is the biggest barrier. Yeah, that's the biggest barrier, she says. It
is. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really important point. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Boelo. All right, so I'm gonna ask you the last question of the session. Are you ready for it? Which is the difficult one? The most difficult one. Okay, so here is it. Here it is. What is your motto?
Ooh, my motto. My motto is basically how I finish all my emails. And it is, long live the dyslexic brain.
Oh, can we say it again?
Long live the dyslexic brain.
Oh, I see. It's great. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Boelo, about it. Okay, that's all my questions and about the session. So before ending our session, would you like to add anything else?
Well, thanking you, obviously, thanking you for giving me this opportunity to share my experience and my passion for this subject with so many people, hoping that I've reached some people, hoping that people have created some more awareness, that maybe have sparkled something, inviting everybody to my website to download the guide, to look me up on Instagram, on LinkedIn, follow me, because I continuously post things there as well, with tips and with ideas and with facts as well. And I hope to meet you again someday soon, and many of you guys as well. And honestly, it's up to us to help our students and to be the teacher that makes the difference.
Definitely. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much, Boelo. And I would like to say one more time, thank you very much for being with us tonight and also sharing your ideas, your suggestions, and your advice about all the problems about dyslexia you mentioned. And the most important thing is you spend your time with us here. Thank you very much, Boelo. And And Boelo Wonderpool was with us tonight with Teacher Talks 145, which was the first session of 2024, and we had a fruitful session with him. And we are going to be here next week on the same day at the same time, as you know that every Monday at 9 p.m. Turkey's time. So, by the way, there's Davitashvili, and we are going to share the link of his website, don't worry, after the session. And until the next session, please take care of yourself and take care of yourself, Boelo. And wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And until the next time, bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, Boelo, and peace. Bye.
Bye-bye.